the first question is, where's the first question? Hold on. The first question is, list what contributions the person or group has made and also the struggles. So I'm not quite sure that this person has really contributed to society that much. I don't really know who they are.
Considering it is anonymous.
Yes, but I think in the grand scheme of things, he or him or whatever, or other people like him, have migrated up north for more opportunities and better treatment in the South, the Great Migration. And so those people like him who have contributed to that movement.
I feel like the fact that he was unidentified, even just him as an individual, it contributed to the whole migration as one big whole. Like, you had this man and you got to see not specifically his journey, but what he went through, how he felt about it, and you could get this personal experience from this person who actually went through it.
Yeah. Any more comments? Thoughts on the passage? Okay, I also think that I guess this probably is answering B as well. His problems and the concerns that he had also were reflective of that of others. They felt like they received somewhat better treatment. It still wasn't, I'm sure, great or amazing, but it was a lot better than what he was experiencing in the South. But he still wasn't comfortable around white people because there was still this factor, there was still this distrust, feeling like, first of all, there's probably no cultural really connect. You're so used to not being allowed to really associate much with them unless it's on the basis of work or whatever, that you sitting next to them, you know what I'm saying, on the bus or in a concert or whatever the situation may be. It's just something that he doesn't feel comfortable doing because he's not used to being able to do that, So, if he wants the same accommodations, you have to learn to adjust. He says that in the passage, but it's still, to this day, it's still an issue. This, I think, cultural disconnect. I think it's just a lot of it is mental. A lot of it is through maybe experience, like his experience. Racism did not vanish because he went to the north, so anything still could happen in that situation. But yeah, that was his issues. Those are his issues.
I remember in the passage, it said that although the north was more integrated and there wasn't as much segregation, there was still some racial violence, and I think that plays a role with not wanting to integrate yourself with people that you might not be accustomed to, especially if you come from the South, where you're not treated as basically an equal. So I think that's what plays a role. And I also noticed that he said when he spoke about his experience, there was a lot of like emotion, and his like a tone of it. You could see that he felt like surprised with the way that people treated him up north. So with the way he was treated up north, you could obviously tell that in the South he was treated a lot less as an equal. So I personally was surprised too that when he goes up north, people don't call him offensive in racial terms, and he's kind of surprised and I guess I would say content with it. So that's what I noticed.
Now, looking at like you mentioned before, the thing of being comfortable around people, just like a question just popped up in my head. Do you guys think that just reading off of this passage, and obviously we don't know what his turnout was, but do you think he ever got comfortable being up in the north and being comfortable around people who didn't look like him?
Especially, I think also it has to do with class and how he was, like the passage that we read before with Black John. When he went up north and stuff, he was in a different situation because he was going up, he was getting his education, he felt like he was amongst a higher class of people, so he felt like he was equal, even though reality checked in and he realized that wasn't the situation. But this man, you could see from his writing, he's not, he's literate, but he's not, he probably doesn't have a college, maybe even a high school education. You know, he's doing housework, you know, so that factor, I think, of class plays a role into that, where he doesn't feel, you know, I feel like I'm running off the question, but he doesn't feel like he's,
if he ever got comfortable.
Yeah, I don't feel like he'll ever be comfortable because he's in this lower class. So the race is already a big factor, but then, you know, socioeconomic class in itself, you know, that's also, I think, a big burden.
Speaking of like integrating in the northern communities, I remember in the reading they also said that most blacks would, I guess, integrate themselves into neighborhoods where it would just be themselves, and that's what plays out with, I guess, secluding themselves from other people, especially whites in the region.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of factors and stuff like that. I mean, you could even look at like banks and lending companies and things that didn't really want to give black people loans to buy houses in the white neighborhoods. You know, when they did get there, a lot of times they were harassed, bullied out. You know, there was so in the north, even though there was this factor you were technically allowed to buy a house where you want to, there's still this unspoken rule. You know, don't move into the house next to me. Don't date my daughter or my son. You know, don't think that you're my equal and not you belong in mine. It could be have a lot to do with stereotypes, just blatant racism within itself. You know, class. You ever heard the term, you know, bringing down the property value and stuff when you're in white neighborhoods? You know, they feel black people moving into a neighborhood could, at that time, and it's probably even still today, quite literally bring down the property values of the surrounding homes. So I think that also plays a role, besides just social, you know, not socially just wanting to be comfortable, and wanting to be people around you, you know, status and a whole bunch of factors are oppressing and causing people to separate. So, do you guys have any experiences with like not, I wouldn't say integrating, but you know, just like having experiences similar to like how you did, like being in a community where you didn't feel like you weren't going to be accepted, or you had these things that were hindering you from totally being open to I don't know what, you know.
I know what you're
yeah.
saying. Well, personally, like, since I'm an immigrant, I'm from Pakistan, so when I moved down here, we met our own type of people that were also Muslims and of Pakistani descent, and I could notice that if we did move into like a different apartment or area, people wouldn't be as friendly as us, and considering the news, especially with all the terrorists and everything, obviously that plays a role, because if I was looking at it the other side, to be honest, I'd be kind of afraid too. But I don't want people to think that's a generalization of all Muslims. So I think I definitely feel a connection with it, because I personally and my family, we've integrated ourselves into other Pakistani communities and Muslim communities with our mosques.
In elementary school, I had moved elementary schools, so it was like maybe 3 other black girls and maybe 4 other black guys. So we were in our own, class.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was weird, but it was just how things were going. And in each class, there were like maybe 2 other black girls, and 4 other black guys, and then the rest, white.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand.
I think with me, the biggest experience, well, maybe the most recent one, in high school, I did the International Baccalaureate program, and out of all of us, I think it was 36 students, and I think you had maybe 2 black girls, 2 black guys, and then you had maybe 4 Hispanics, and we would always be the ones that would try to work together and get our work done, because the other students that were predominantly white, they already knew each other going into the program. They had their little cliques, and they would help each other out with homework. Be like, oh, I have this study guide, I have this and that, and you can borrow this. And with my personality, I wouldn't just want to barge in and say, oh, can I have this? Can I join your friendship? Blah, 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 whatever. Because I'm not that type of person. I mean, I will speak. I'm friendly, but I'm not just automatically going to go up to somebody and introduce myself. But even with that, we would all be friendly even after the 2 years, but you could still tell there was a sense of divide. Like, even when we would go out to lunch, like who they would go off campus with, it'd always just be me and other minority students who are in the lunchroom just eating, and that's whatever. But with that, I think the biggest lesson that I could take away from that, even though we weren't all connected together the way I felt we should have been, there was still stuff that I could learn from them, like how we talked about in class, like the unspoken language, the coded language. There was stuff that you could pick up on, like you knew that they knew, but they wouldn't tell you. So you would kind of have to find that out for yourself, and you were always like 2 steps behind the other students because you didn't automatically know that. But with that experience, it just helped me figure out you do have to work twice as hard sometimes. And even with that experience, when you're working just as hard and you're not still at the same level as them, you still have to just personally boost your own self up, because that's all you have sometimes. So.
Sometimes I feel the intimidation too, because I feel like I'm not as capable, because I kind of had that experience in high school too, because I didn't know as much. Like, I wasn't raised around you. I don't know the college process. Like, my parents didn't know it unless other people had older siblings and they went through the same process. So I know what you mean, because you did feel 2 steps behind.
Yeah, I think like with me, my issue, I bounced from school to school, and so it's like you were never on the same. I was never on the same track, you know. And even I remember in middle school, and it was a predominantly white middle school. It was the middle school right next to the high school I did eventually go to. I was in an advanced math program, right? So I was a math grade ahead. So I was going to take a high school class in middle school. And so the day I walked in, the teacher, she pulled me over to the side. She's like, you were in private school? Maybe you should go a math class behind, because you wouldn't be ready for this one. And so I told my parents about it. And then I realized, okay, I went to private school, but another white kid in the class went to private school, and she didn't have this conversation with him. Wow. You know? So, I mean, we had a whole big meeting. You know, my parents came, talked to the principal and her. I ended up having her husband for another class. This is really in high school. You know? But, you know, it's stuff like that. That's when I really started to become hyper aware of a whole bunch of things, from interactions with teachers, you know, students, other students, the way they speak.
Even realize was happening.
Because I think I don't think I ever lived in a bubble necessarily, or where I wasn't aware of any racism or anything, but I think I tried to doubt it a little bit. I tried to pretend it wasn't there. Like I would experience it and be like, no, maybe it's for this, maybe it's for that. And then I'm just like, you know what, whatever. You know, this is the situation. You know, I'm in the school. They don't treat me the same way that they're gonna treat everybody else. Like you said, I have to work twice as hard to get the same opportunity, same grades, same everything. I didn't have the same educational upbringing they did in that same school, so they were learning things from, even in my private school, I wasn't learning, you know? So I had to literally work twice as hard to get where I wanted to go.
Yeah, I feel like most people, they, like, just because of their nature and their personality, they want to assume the best of everybody, but when you have experiences like that, it distorts your view of kind of how things are supposed to be. Like, you want it to be something else, but clearly, not clearly, but just you see, obviously, that is something completely different that you don't want it to be. Yeah. So that's kind of difficult as well.
You're not judging me based off of my ability or, you know, anything. But it's as soon as she saw me.
Yeah, she just knew you weren't supposed to be there.
Yeah. And so that's why I think it hurt, because it was like, you don't know anything about me. You know? you don't have anything to base these. Up until now, up until that point, I'd made all A's and everything. What is it? You know, so that's why it was like figuratively like a punch in like the stomach, you know. But it was awakening, I think.
Try to look at the time without like looking at the time. Oh, we're at 15 minutes. Okay. Does it? Okay, wait. But does everyone have to speak on these videos?
I don't know.
We have to speak in the presentation, so like all of this.
Yeah, I'll speak in the presentation.
What was the last question?
I think we pretty much answered the last question. Are these still, you know, is what they went through, like, is that still applicable today? You know? Yeah. And it's, you know, obviously we've shown that it is still applicable, whatever, today.
That word.
Today. So, I mean, pretty much all of us have experienced some sort of disconnect, tension, you know, experience with racism or whatever, you know, so, yeah.
What? Oh, I'm sorry.